Welcome to one of the many circle sessions hosted by Wonder Girls. Wonder Girls is a nationwide classrooms movement. We bring relatable female role models into classroom settings through our circle sessions. As you will see, the crux of these sessions is its dialogic nature. We're currently working with classrooms across 7 Indian cities and continuing to grow. Our aim is for every adolescent in India to have access to relatable female role models. I welcome you once again and hope you enjoy learning from our role models' life journey and career path.
Kids, we have Diya Thacker, who is a baker and started baking at very young age, and uh, she watches show like Food Factory, Fabulous Cakes on TLC, and MasterChef Australia. And when she was about 15 years old or 16, when she knew this is what she wanted to do, baking, and she chose baking as a profession, as a full-time profession.
You can continue.
Okay, so I was telling about Dia's education. Yeah, so she has graduated and she is going to culinary school for coming years to follow her passion. And her journey just began. Over to you, Dia. Welcome here.
Diya, you are on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here and share this part of my life with all of you. So, as Harsh said, I've been baking for quite a few years now. So the earliest memory I have of being in the kitchen, I'm not sure what age I was, but it was just baking brownies with my aunt and my sister. And I definitely did not help them in the kitchen at that time, but that's just like a very faint memory that I have. So I've loved food for as long as I can remember, and again, I used to watch shows like Fabulous Cakes and MasterChef Australia, and they really stirred up my passion to be in the kitchen. Fabulous Cakes in particular was really inspiring to me because I would look at these bakers making these really wonderful tiered cakes, and I would think to myself that maybe one day I want to make those too. So since the very beginning, I've just been inclined towards baking more than I have been towards cooking. There's no particular reason for it as such, except for maybe that I love sweet too. So I have tried cooking as well, but I'm decent, but it's not my cup of tea. They are two very look at it in this way that when I used to see MasterChef Australia, I would be really impressed by the techniques and what they were making, but I would really feel like eating the food that they make. And versus when I used to see Fabulous Cakes, it was like a vision board for me. Like I wanted to be at that level someday. So are two completely different arts, I would say, and they require their own practice. And baking is more technique driven, and it's more about following instructions, whereas cooking is a lot more intuitive. So in January of 2019, I decided to create my own Instagram account to display whatever I made. So
Sorry about that. Children, can we all?
Children just follow the norm which we follow in our class. Like, you cannot come off mute until you are asked to come off mute. है ना? Just listen what Diya Didi is saying.
भैया your
Yeah,
voice
Diya.
is breaking भैया your voice is breaking
Okay, Kirti, you can repeat what I said.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you. Yeah. Am I audible and visible? I'm sorry, I guess it's my internet, which is not stable. Diya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll keep my video off. I hope that helps with the bandwidth. And sorry for the disturbance. Children, if we all can be on mute, it will be really helpful. So we will listen to Didi, and if you have any questions, yes, Didi is here to answer all of them. But first, we will listen to her, and then.
Should I continue?
Yes, yes, you can continue, please.
Yes, yes, Diya, go on.
Yeah, so in January 2019, I decided to create an Instagram account to display whatever I was creating. So the pizza that you see in the center of the screen is one of the first made. It was I made from scratch. So I just created my account in an impulse, and that was my first post on the account. I was still in school when I started my account, so whenever I would get time, I would and whatever I would make, I would try to make it look as presentable as possible and try to post it. So in 2020, when the pandemic struck, I had all the time in the world. I had just finished my 12th board examinations, and so I didn't have any online classes to attend. So it was at that time when I started experimenting with new flavors and new dishes. This was also around the time when the first lockdown in Mumbai was strictly imposed, and so restaurants and bakeries, everything was shut. So it was so at this time, I used to bake cakes for my friends and family's birthdays, but I was still idle for the most part throughout the day. So that's when I sat down with my sister. We created a list of things that I needed to accomplish in 2020. So a few of them that are relevant to this session uh, was rebranding my account. The second was launching my website and start writing blogs on it because writing is another long lost love of mine. And the third one was to start my business and start selling what I make. So, as I mentioned earlier, my account was known as the recipe tailor, and it was just a name I found off of the internet because I created my account in an impulse. I stuck with the name for over a year, but I was never satisfied to like make that my permanent name. It was a very common name in the food industry, and I wanted something different that would stand out. And I also really wanted to connect with my audience. So that's when I decided to change the name of my account to my own name when because I felt the most connected to people on social media who were just simply known by their name. So once I decided that I wanted my brand to be called Diya Thacker, I then wanted to have a logo design for it. So I was lucky enough that one of my closest friend's sister is a graphic designer. So she helped me out to create which is what I. And while that was in the process, I was also working on my website. So we had a few corrections back and forth to finalize my logo. Once my logo was finalized, I gave myself about a week's time to launch my website. So I'm going to play a small video for you all of what my website looked like in the beginning when I launched it. When I launched it, I had a couple of recipes on there, and now I also have a few blogs on there. So I'll just play it for you. So that is what my website looked like in the very beginning. And so the third and last part was to start selling what I make. And I'll just get it just a minute.
Okay, so starting the business was the last task on my list that I needed to complete. So I've written few questions on the screen that I asked myself and that you all can ask yourself when you want to start your business. This is not related just to what I'm doing. It can you can ask yourself these questions for whatever business you might be starting. So the first one was to have a brand name, logo, and establish yourself on social media. So once I had all those three things done, the next question is, what are you selling? So for me, it was very obvious that I was selling baked goods. But one thing that I wanted was for my product to be different than what you can get at a local bakery. I wanted it to be something that was not very common in the market. So, so that's when I decided to sell brookies. So, brookies are a cross between brownie and cookies, and I have personally not seen them, at like a local bakery, especially in my area or even a few kilometers away. So, I had a couple of trial runs for that, and that's when I decided that's what I want to sell. Then the next one was, how are you selling it? So the reason I just went ahead and decided to sell one thing was because I had a strategy in how I wanted to sell my products. So I decided to start selling my products by selling them in bake sales. So I had like a 2 day bake sale where I sold brookies, and I had another one recently during Christmas. So the reason I went ahead with the bake sale strategy was because I wanted to put out a few products in the market and see what the response is, and so I could curate my permanent menu accordingly. Then the next one is, does your product stand out? So again, like I said, brookies were not something I had seen very often in the market, and so it did stand out to me. And again, the bake sale was a great success, and mainly because again, it wasn't something that people had seen, and they were excited to see a new product like that. Then the next one is, why would consumers choose you over an established brand? So again, for consumers to even consider buying from your brand, your product needs to be different. It needs to be something they have not seen, so they gravitate towards buying from you. The next thing is, you need to keep your costs lower than your established competitor. So in the beginning, I kept my prices quite low. They were not even close to what an established competitor would be, because when people see a different product and then they see that your cost is relatively lower than the local bakeries, again they will gravitate towards you. And the third part of why consumers would choose you is that you're giving them high quality products. So even if consumers decide to buy from you, if they are not satisfied with the quality of your product, they will not come back to you. So again, it's really important that you give them the highest quality product that you can. In which, so for that you need to use the highest quality raw materials. So I I myself did not use the best quality because I was not able to afford that in the very beginning, because people would not pay a high price to a brand that is not established. So I used the highest quality that I possibly could, and I made sure that the taste of the product was really good. So again, like I mentioned before, I had quite a few recipe trials where my friends and families tried the brookies and gave me feedback on it so I could improve it. Then the last one is, how can you make your brand sustainable? So again, there are two parts to this. The first one is, how do you sustain your brand? So there's a little bit of math involved in it. You need to do your costing and your accounting. It needs to be precise, because again, I'm not a math person. Very basic math, but it's important to maintain that record. So you need to make a list of what your cost is. You need to make a list of what are your overheads, how much are you paying yourself, and then what is your selling price. And the difference between your total cost and your selling price is your profit. So yeah, you need to make sure again that in the beginning your selling price is not very high, but it's enough to sustain your brand. So enough that you can put the money back into your business and continue running your business. And the next part about it is is having sustainable packaging. So when I was starting my small business, it was really important to me to use as little plastic as I possibly could. Um, we as humans, and especially in the food industry, there's a lot of plastic waste um, that is used. Takeaways are given in plastic containers because it's really convenient. You can reheat your food in them and things like that. But it's really not good for the environment. And so I was really stubborn that I didn't want my packaging to be wholly of plastic. So my first bake sale, I just used regular cake boxes, and yeah, I just had my branding on top of it. So I had like my stickers and I had once my brand gained a little recognition, I was able to invest in like a custom packaging, which is again paper, but it's much better and it is of better quality. So yeah, that's the sustainability part of it. Then we come to 2020. Just yeah, so as you all can see, I started my business very recently. I had my first bake sale in October, and that is the poster of my bake sale. So being limited number of the orders that I could take, and again because it was something that stood out, my first bake sale sold out really fast. And I also had orders for the days after the bake sale because some people couldn't buy it in the first 2 days. So the response for the first bake sale was really good, and like you can say a bigger order for the coming months. So that's when my product stood out. Then my second bake sale was recently during Christmas. So in the gap, I did take regular orders for cakes and again rookies and stuff like that. But again, for my second bake sale, I wanted to introduce a newer product, and so that's when I decided to sell carrot cake. So I had almost double the capacity this time, but the response wasn't as good. I had double the capacity, but I fulfilled only half of it. Um, Again, maybe because when people hear carrot cake, it's not as appealing to them. So again, that's one risk when you are putting out a new product in the market. But that's a risk I knew I was taking, and I was okay with it. So uh, so yeah, the second bake sale didn't go very well, and I'm not that upset about it because two people actually reached out to me after they had bought from me that they normally don't like carrot cake, but liking the carrot cake versus selling out was more important. So yeah, I've had two bake sales to now, and I have regular orders in the middle, before and after them. And yeah, one bake sale was really successful and one was not. So that's like the ups and downs of the business, and this has just been my journey till now, and it's still the beginning. And yeah, that's it. So if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
I thank you so much for sharing that, Dia. It was beautiful and pretty tasty too. Like we just kind of melting over all that you showed. Students are saying the same. So yeah. Well, apart from food, would love to hear your views on entrepreneurship. Because there are budding entrepreneurs here who would like to start something of their own, right? And you are just a source of inspiration for that. How you started at such a young
Yeah,
age and everything on your own from scratch and doing so well at the same time right now. So, just that. You sort of covered the questions that we had, which is helpful, but
yeah,
for students to again understand it, or like just to elaborate on the how to go about being an entrepreneur, just have a few more questions for you, right?
yeah.
Yes. And students, if you have any question, please feel free to put them on the chat box or raise your hand to ask, right? ठीक है. So you told us you bake and how different it is from cooking. So that was pretty interesting to hear. We also learned. So could you explain to students like in bit who is an entrepreneur and how to become an entrepreneur? Like you did explain about in the context of baking, but just zooming out and looking at it from an entrepreneurship lens, what does
Yeah.
it look like?
So, an entrepreneur is someone who owns his or her own business. So, you're basically not working for anyone, people are working for you. And as to how to become an entrepreneur, there's no guide. There are like courses you can take up to like know the information, but I don't think in particular you have the internet nowadays, which answers basically all the questions you have. So to become an entrepreneur, I would say you need to have an idea of what you want your business to look like, on what you want to sell in your business. Like again, the questions that I had written down on the screen, like what do you sell and how would you sell it, and how will you make sure that consumers buy from you instead of your competitor. So these are the few questions you need to ask yourself. But as to how to become an entrepreneur, anyone can become an entrepreneur, even if you don't particularly have the the like school knowledge of it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like, just the idea, oh, entrepreneurship is something huge, and maybe it's not for me, but anyone can become, provided they have that idea and interest about to start something. So, connecting to that question, do you do we need any specific education qualifications to become an entrepreneur?
So again, there are degrees that teach you entrepreneurship, and I'm sure that's definitely helpful. But again, it's not necessary. So yeah, even my business is just in the beginning stage, but I don't particularly have a formal education about entrepreneurship. So this is where the internet comes. I would watch different shows like Shark is a show. If I'm sure most of you all will know about it. So it's a show where there are four investors and people come up with their business ideas and invest in their business, and those are all entrepreneurs. So you get an idea of how people are running their business, what steps you need to run your business. So you can watch different YouTube videos. You can you can go to free online learning websites and learn about entrepreneurship. So even though there is a formal education for it, you don't necessarily need one to become an entrepreneur.
Right. So I see social media playing a major role in how you can expand your business. And we have seen how beautifully
Yeah.
you have done through your own website and using social media tools like Insta, etc. Yeah, that's really inspiring to see. So, what about entrepreneurs you like? What about it excites you, or who do you think can become an entrepreneur? What is something that they should be interested in?
So again, the amazing thing about entrepreneurship is that you can be interested in basically anything and turn that into a business. Who can become an entrepreneur? You need to have the drive to run your own business. I knew from the again, my business is just in the beginning stage, but I knew for a very long time that I don't want to work under someone. Like I want to work under someone to gain experience from them, but in the long run, I want to have my own business. So you need to have the drive to run your own business, and you also need to be open to risk. That sometimes things in your business might not go the way you've expected. So you just need to be open to everything, and you need to be creative in a sense to run your business.
Right, that's just so powerful. Like you work by yourself and you don't work for anyone. You have the freedom and autonomy and
Yeah.
dependency to do what you really want to do. You talked about risk here, and I feel like that's part of entrepreneurship. Like just starting something on my own from scratch, where financial condition might also be challenging.
Yeah.
Scary thought. So, any tips and trips on how to see risk in business? Provided we also foresee some challenges. So, how do you see as risk?
Again, for me, like I mentioned, when I put out the second bake sale, I knew for a fact that it might not do that well, but I still put it out because the thing is, if you don't put out different products in the market, if people are not introduced to it in the first place, they might not even ever think of trying it. How to foresee risks is that you need to know what your audience likes, and even though you decide to introduce a product that may or may not be as welcoming as others, you need to take a call whether you want to introduce it or no. Some people might not want to take the risk, and that's completely okay. But you just need to know what your audience wants when because that's how you know if the risk is going to be big or small. So, that's one thing, and another part of problems I would say is that what I have come across is that again, because my menu right now is quite limited. I just have a few cake flavors and a few like baked goods. People are not going to come back for the same thing again and again. So you can have like in my case, I can have like one or two signature products that I don't want to change. But at this time, I'm focusing on really changing up my menu because since October, I'm selling pretty much the same thing, and people are going to get tired of, again, eating and buying the same thing. Like I need to work on a new menu. Like similarly, if you're an entrepreneur selling something else, you need to make sure that you are coming up with new products at regular intervals so that your audience doesn't go away to someone else and is loyal to you. So that's one part of risk and problems that I have faced until now.
So it's very important to know your audience and have speciality which attracts them. Like, why should they come to you? So when you have that signature product, you will keep your audience loyal. So you spoke about challenges here a bit. Could you elaborate on that? Like, what challenges did you face as an entrepreneur? It could be both personal and professional. And if you could also add, how did you overcome them? That would be helpful.
Okay, one of the things was again, because I've not really worked before, I went from not really working to working like really long hours a day. So
Yeah.
that was one thing, like you get physically and mentally tired, but that's something you again build up over time. And second thing, like I said, you need to keep on pushing out new products, and sometimes customers will push you to that. So someone will ask me that cake is not on your menu, but could you maybe make it? Again, you make it for them if you have the ability to, and if they like it, you again add that on your menu. So one thing for me was the physical exhaustion of it, and again, like I said, I need to get new things on my menu. And otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much all I've had till now.
Right. I can totally just sense how difficult it might be to start everything from scratch and work for so many hours. But how we manage our own energy and work on ourselves, that's very important. And then just the product. Like I feel that's the center of your business. What product we are using and how are we communicating the same to our audience? What makes them bring to us is something that we need to work on. Children, at this point, can I please request you all to keep your video off so that we can hear only Didi, right? Yeah, thank you so much. Uh, Thank you for sharing that, Diya. And next, I was just wondering what skills and mindsets would you require to become an entrepreneur? Like just aligning our interest to what I can do. So, few skills and mindsets that you feel an entrepreneur need. Uh, Someone like you.
Okay, skills. Again, the skills really depend on what kind of business you're getting into. So for me, again, I needed to be good in the kitchen, and that was my strength. So I went ahead with that. But if you're someone who's like sourcing products from a manufacturer, you need to have, or even for me, for that, fact, you need to have a good communication skills, which again I'm still working on. You need to be able to communicate to people. You need to be able to communicate what you want to your manufacturers. You need to be able to communicate to your consumers that your product is really good. So communication skills are really important, and it's something even I'm still working on, and something that builds up over time. And another thing is um, if we come to the social media aspect of it, you need to be consistent with your posting, because if you post maybe like once a month, people might forget that your brand even exists. So you need to be active on there pretty often. And if it comes to mindset, you need to really believe in what you're doing, and you need to have a positive mindset, which is not possible all the time. But that's when I guess your friends and family come in, where they encourage you that you know for it being your own product, you might be more criticizing to it to like versus like another person. So I think having a strong mindset is important, but again, that's something you develop. And I think surrounding yourself with the right people who will not put you down, but except encourage you to do better, is again something that's really important.
Right. So broadly, I'm hearing how communication is so important, and you say that you are still learning it, but I don't know. I just loved your site and just the way it's so pretty, how it's communicating. Like I could feel the taste from the pictures. So that was see. So communication and support from family is something that will always help. From mindset, I'm taking away how we need to have a strong mindset and be very determined that this is what I want to do, and believe in yourself that yes, my business might be successful. So just having a strong head and believe in yourself is what I'm learning. Thank you so much for sharing that. So yes, just a couple more, and then we can
Yeah.
go over to students because I know they must be having a lot of questions to ask. So you already shared about how cooking and baking is different. A few of our students do enjoy cooking and baking, but like it might be something new for them. Do you have any tips and tricks for either of those? Like how can they go about baking if not, and could you also talk a little about cooking? I'm not sure if you are comfortable with cooking per se, like you mentioned there's a difference, but yeah, just anything around that.
Okay, so I'll start off with baking because that's what I know best. So for baking, you really need practice. You again, the internet is a very good place for all of that. So you can watch YouTube videos on how to bake a particular thing, and it takes like a good amount of practice to perfect it to be able to sell it. So again, like I said, for brookies, I had a couple of trial runs with my friends and families, and I took their feedback, and then I finalized the product, which I'm then selling now. So, one thing I would say for baking is you need continuous practice, and not just of one thing, but of different things. So, you can maybe try baking a cake one day, try baking cookies one day, and it's more about the technique. So, am I whisking the right way? Am I folding? The ingredients in the batter the correct way. So there's a lot of intricate technique involved in baking, which again I did take a couple of workshops over the years, so that's how I built that. But it's mainly through practice, and again you can watch videos on YouTube to like develop those skills, and eventually you will know what you're doing wrong to be able to fix it. For cooking, again, I'm not a very good cook, but cooking is also definitely a lot about practice. So yeah, I actually don't have much to say about cooking, but again, so one difference that I can say between the two is you need to be very precise with your measurements of the ingredients that you're putting in baking, whereas cooking is more about tasting along the way how it's coming along. When I cook, I try to go the baking way, like I try to have the exact measurements, and it's not always great. So that's one difference I have noticed, that um, while baking needs more practice and like the techniques, I think cooking needs more practice and just knowing how to cook, knowing when to add what. and just like tasting along the way. So yeah.
Right. So whatever you shared for baking, I can personally take it as a practice which can be applied to a lot of other things in life. Like do whatever. You can learn so much from internet and YouTube. You can take feedback from people, and that is how you improve on your work. And just continuous practice, like just sticking to what
Yeah.
product you are interested in working on, continuously just practicing and making it better and better, and finally people will like love it. So thank you for sharing that. That's very helpful. From my side, we have these questions which were
Yeah.
from students, and now we will open to y'all. So children, if you have any question, yes, please put on the chat box or just raise your hand to ask. Kushi asked saying ki, did you also use social media like YouTube for baking a new thing?
Yeah, so I what I see in YouTube is mainly the techniques how they are using it. They always have a recipe on there as well. So I watched. So for example, say you want to bake something as simple as a cake, you can see about 2-3 different videos on the techniques that they are using to bake a cake. So you can rewatch the same video a couple of times, or you can watch different videos to see what different people are doing. So I definitely used YouTube, make new things especially. But I also attended a couple of physical workshops over the past few years. So even that has helped.
Right. So, Khushi, I hope that answers your question. And that's just so interesting. Like, you can open any YouTube video today and maybe just try something new and see if it really interests you. I feel it's very soothing when you follow instructions, when you see it coming out like precisely, and it's very soothing to even cook or bake whatever you're trying to bake. So, do try it out, and maybe you will take it up as a career, right? Any more questions, children? Didi would be more than happy to answer. Anything around baking or anything leadership? Yeah. Before baking, would you make a plan for it? Yeah. Or will you start baking the orders that comes to you? So, do you plan before starting something, or how do you go about just the way you work?
Okay, so for when it comes to the selling part, I take the orders that comes and I make what they want. But there's a lot of behind the scenes for that. So when you look at it, a day in my life just involving the selling part would not be that many hours. But I have to try the recipe quite a few times before again it's good enough to sell. And it's not just one thing. So again, there are a few different flavors of cakes which I need to try beforehand. Then how I make a plan for it. So you really need to focus on the costing. So if you it's basically just unitary method. So say if your packet of maida of like 500 grams is like say 30 rupees, and if you're using 100 grams, how much is your cost in that particular cake that you're making? So there's a lot of planning, but that's you can say one-time planning. So you sit down once to figure out the cost of your cake, how much you're paying yourself per hour, and like what percentage of the profit you are getting. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You also have to click good pictures of the final products, put up on Instagram, which then your customers can send to you saying that I want to order this, how can I order it? So for the selling part of it, yeah, I take orders that come to me, but there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes about.
Right. So a lot of planning is needed indeed, but once you figure out your plan, it's a repetitive process, and every time you
Yeah.
smoothly follow it. I was got a question in mind, so I was wondering, like, this all sounds good when it is successful. Let's say, by looking at the other side of the story, like, what if you're not successful at some point, or in the middle of your career too, you feel like this is not how I wanted it to look like. How do you deal failure there, or what is your perspective in life about it?
I think failure is going to come to everyone at some point in life. Like again, I'm I'm 19 right now, and this is what my business is looking like before I go to culinary school. So I think when I look at my business maybe 2 years from now, I'm not going to particularly love what I did at that time. But for to answer like your question of failure, like what if you don't like how your business is looking? So one thing and that is to evolve as the world evolves. So again, you need to try out different things. If you stick with the same menu that you have for like 2 years, even you're not going to be happy just making the same thing over and over. Even your customers will want something new. So if you don't evolve with time, then you are most likely to fail for a short period of time. But you can prevent it by again giving the customers what they want. So yeah.
That's interesting, and just how very practical it is. Ki try out different things if some one particular thing is not working, and how with time it needs to be changed, evolved, and updated. And look out for what your audience need. They are the center here, and whatever they like, you just give it to them. Which and I feel that goes for any entrepreneurship role for that matter, like not just food, but if let's say you want to open a tailoring shop, if you want to, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, like you should really focus on what your customers need. But
Hmm.
at the same time, if your customers are not introduced to something new, they might not know that they want it or need it. So if a particular product is not introduced in the Indian market, and you don't introduce it at all, thinking that consumers don't want this, you really don't know what they want or do not want unless you introduce it. So again, it's that small risk is important to make sure that you're evolving with time.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, such a new take to look at what the audience need. What if they don't even know such a thing
Yeah,
exists?
exactly.
Introduce it to them. That would be like a moment, and maybe they would love it. So,
Mm.
thank you for sharing that. So, if you have some crazy idea out there, children, maybe just try it out. Maybe people will love it. And yes, that involves a risk. What if they won't love it? But what if they will, right? A lot of ifs, but I hope that's what business is all about. Yeah. Any more questions, children? I was also wondering, so when you start your own business, initially the capital needed is very crucial. Any tips and tricks on how did you go about it, or like how can someone who is not stable can still, work on it around having their own business?
Yeah, so I borrowed money from my parents in the beginning, and again, I was lucky enough because I've been baking for so long. I have all of the equipment, but if you don't, you need to borrow money from somewhere to buy your equipment and start. And you need to work hard enough, and again, you need to attract your consumers to be able to pay back what you have borrowed. So you should ideally do it as soon as possible. That doesn't mean you pay back the money you borrowed in like a month or 2 months. It can take time, but it all starts with borrowing from somewhere if you don't have the means yourself. And when you work hard, you will eventually be able to pay it back. So yeah, for capital, I think you need to make a list of whatever you think you need and not what you want, because you might want a lot of things, but they might be very unnecessary in the beginning of your business. So again, like I said, I upgraded my packaging only when I knew that my business would work and when I had the means to. So in the beginning, you need to be very you need to be very conservative with how you're spending the money that you have borrowed.
Right. A lot of financial skills, management skills, I feel are also needed here. How you wisely use the money. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how you need to use your money for what you need rather
Yeah.
than a lot of things that you want. Uh,
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that. Is it really needed that we should be interested in baking and then only it will work?
Uh,
Um,
no, you can be interested as in to start a baking business or what?
Yeah, I think so. The question could be like, is it really needed to be interested into something if you want to start it off as a business?
Uh, I don't think it's necessary, but I think that's the way you will be happy and that's the way you'll be successful. I think one part of business that people don't really see as not just business, but like, of profession is that you really need to be happy doing what you're doing because if you're not, you might just not feel like doing your job or running your business anymore. Whereas if you love what you do, if you're happy with what you are doing, you will not only, look forward to work every single day, but you will also be more successful than what you would if you were doing something that doesn't really interest you. Because, when you follow your passion and you follow something that you're interested in, you get different ideas on how to expand your business. So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I think it's one of the most important aspects of business that people don't really talk about.
Right. And I feel that is where this question makes so much sense right now. And thank you for sharing your perspective. How, if it's fine, it's your business might work if you're not interested in what you're doing, but just the idea of business and just the amount of money that we can come from it, provided it's successful, is what makes people do it. But then that is where the happiness, the passionate is might be missing. And that is what career is all about. Are you really happy about what you're doing? So I feel you need to be interested, yes, in an idea that excites you and
Yeah.
then take it over as a business rather than just doing a business. That's an interesting take on it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dia. Thank you, Kushi, for asking those questions. Children will wait for 2 more minutes. One has anything, either raise your hand and ask or put on the chat box. Anything you have on top of your mind about business or want to learn, Didi is the right person to ask to. So, yeah, just use your time here. You sort of actually covered so much when you spoke with your presentation. So, that was very fruitful.
Thank you.
All right. So for now, I think they do not have questions. I think they have understood it like really well. If not, they uh, would have asked. So great. Thank you so much, Dia, for spending your time with us. It was so interesting to just hear, firstly, hear the story from your side, how you started, and all the knowledge brought here. Um, yeah. So anything that you have uh, to close off with, you can share with us. If not, it was really interesting session, and I can see the comments from students like they are interested in doing business, or at least like have started thinking about it. So I think we are successful here at least.
I think if we are looking to start something, I would really recommend everyone to like see Shark Tank. Like I mentioned before, it's
Mhm.
just like it's just a really interesting show and it's really helpful. So in different aspects of business. So yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that reminds me of the show. Like it just a long back. Sometime I have watched it.
Yeah.
Interesting ideas you get there, children. Like just try to watch, I mean, episode or something on YouTube. Uh,
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy ideas from people and very inspiring. All right. If with that we can wrap up and students, you all can start leaving. Yeah, thank you so much, Dia. It was really, really interesting. So good to have you and talk to you. So, students are actually behind your recipes, or maybe they just want to taste something that you have made. Virtually, it's not possible, but I hope one day.
So I have a few recipes up on my website, so I'll just leave my website in the
Yes.
chat box. And if you're interested in trying anything, you can do that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, students, so y'all can check out this website. Um, and recipes are uploaded. Maybe you can try baking something and just get back to us saying like how did it come out to you. Yeah, Didi has also shared her Instagram account where you can also go for her recipes or look at the beautiful pictures. and learn just in the process how she is using her social media account to, expand her business. So do check these resources out.
Didi, is this your Instagram ID? Bye, Didi.
Bye.